This is Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants, the show that helps HR experts build a predictable pipeline of premium paying clients without expensive ads, constant posting, or endless networking. I'm your host, Nick Paninsky, author of The Complete Guide to Building a 70k HR Consultancy and creator of the Client Control Method, helping HR professionals grow with clarity, confidence, and control. Let's get into today's episode. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants with me, Nick Paninsky. Today's episode is a really special one because I am joined by someone who embodies exactly what happens when a HR consultant stops winging it and starts building their consultancy with structure, clarity, and intention. Paul joined me at a point where he was doing all the usual things, posting when he remembered, taking the odd referral, hoping clients would appear. And he is brilliant at HR, but his business felt unpredictable. Does that sound familiar? Well, what you're about to hear is the moment everything changed for him because we plugged in a simple controlled system that gave him direction, confidence, and a business he could actually rely on. So if you're listening to this thinking, that's me, that's exactly where I am right now, then you're going to get a lot from this conversation. So let's get into it. First up, Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nick.
You are more than welcome, my friend. So for those of people listening along at home, let's have your elevator pitch. Who are you? Why should we care?
So my name's Paul. I run an HR consultancy called Verdant Purpose HR that solely focuses on charities. I suppose the point of, why should you care is I started this like back in April without a clue, and kind of made all the common mistakes of, I think I should do this. It didn't work. I think I should do that. It didn't work. And then I found a book and I read the first couple of pages of that book and just, every page I turned, I was like, oh, I've made that mistake. Turn to the next one. I've made that mistake too. And I kind of wanted to, pitch in on this conversation and say, you don't need to make the mistakes that everyone else is making. There is a better way to do this. And that's led us on to what we now, 6-7 months on now to where we are here.
Yes. Just for those for listening along at home, let's be obvious. What was the book you found, Paul?
It may have been your book. It may have been the how to make 70k a year book. I think I bought the book at like 6:15 in the morning on a treadmill and was like, this seems good. Let's have a read of this. Read a page whilst walking on the treadmill. That is difficult to do. And was like, okay, I've read enough. I'm putting this down. Finish the gym and then carry on reading it later.
Awesome. And you found me through a Facebook advert, eh? Or Instagram?
So I found you through a Facebook ad, which I then obviously popped my details in and was like, am I going to get spammed? Did not, thankfully. Signed up for the book, read the book, got about halfway through the book, and then I can't remember whether you reached out or I reached out to you, and we had that early conversation to go, kind of hit a wall. I'm slightly impatient, so I was like, I want to know what's at the end of the book without reading, and that kind of conversation around what do I do, what's next, and that early conversation, because I think when we first started talking, I was like, I want to support charities and B Corps.
Yeah.
Now there's 3 B Corps in the UK, because it's not that much of a thing over here. So that conversation, we narrowed down that actually I really like charities. B Corps was just a tack on from my old, I want to support SMEs.
Yeah.
So let go of that quite quickly, had a go at some adverts, but was bluntly kind of making it up as I went along. I made some really crappy adverts, spent a few pounds and I got a couple of leads, which turned out to be friends of mine that thought it'd be really good to sign up for my newsletter. Did not realize then that they basically, I paid to have their details, but I already had. So then I was like, I think we spoke, what was it? Like July time, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was,
And then was like, what next? Is there a better way of doing this? And then I jumped on this thing called the Success Squad, which has been like 12 weeks of intense weekly kind of like brain dumps and lots of homework about how to kick things off. And it's kind of got me to where I am now. And won a couple of clients out the back of actually doing things sensibly, as opposed to going, I've made a really glossy document and I really like it and I think it's lovely, but when I send it to them I hear nothing back. But they are still pretty documents, but they're useless.
Yeah, I hear that before. I love it. So I mean, let's go back to the beginning just quickly. Sure. I love that overview and I love that introduction. But I guess when you were reading the book and you were reading about all these mistakes to avoid and you realized you made them, was that the moment that you realized something had to change, or was there something else?
I think it was very much a case of some of them I'd already made. So I'd already set myself up initially and go, I'm going to support SMEs. And I'd already I'd spent so much time on my logo and thinking, oh, that looks lovely. And I picked my color scheme and everything. And then I learned that no one cares about your logo.
I don't.
I think in that story of mistakes, there was a few that I'd made that I wish I'd bought the book earlier and learned them earlier. There was a few that I was in the process of making, jumping onto a client call and talking about how, basically convincing people why they shouldn't work with me. And then the mistakes that were coming ahead in terms of the whole, how do I scale this? How do I look about the options about eventually employing people in my consultancy? I think the book helped me realize that actually, I think you call it the dumb tax, in terms of I was being the village idiot, in terms of I was working my way through the mistakes. And it was kind of like, I can do this slow form, but to my earlier point of being an impatient person, I kind of wanted a quicker way to get through the mistakes. It's been, don't get me wrong, 6, 8, 10 months ago, didn't even know this was a skill for me. So to have learned it and be able to do it is amazing. But some of those bits I wish I hadn't learned the hard way. Yeah.
Well, I think that's why people pay for coaching, right? It's why people pay you for your services and people invest with me for my services, because it's like a gondola to the top of the mountain rather than having a backpack full of rocks, because, you're not making those mistakes on your own. Instead, I'm just there going, no, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's kind of the backpack full of rocks is tempting, because you can be like, no, throw one at someone, slow them down, and then it looks like you're going far. And I think I struggled quite early on, because you kind of you looked at other people in the industry and they were like, you're like, what are they doing that I'm not? Why do they look successful and I don't? Why are they getting so many likes on their LinkedIn posts and I'm not? And it's like a whole different world to what I'm used to. And a lot of people looking like they've got it together when they probably haven't.
Social media, it's very deceptive. And that comparison, it's the thief of joy.
Bold of you to assume I had any joy in the first place.
But yes, circling back a little bit, I think you're right. Like, it is, for some reason, people have this idea of, I want to try it out myself. I want to do it by myself. And it's admirable, but it takes so much time. And that's what I say to people, like, you can invest your time, you can pay that dumb tax, or you can just take a shortcut. And
I must admit, it did. I expected this like instant thing of like, I announced my consultancy and I put out the logo and people go, oh, it's lovely and green and it looks like you cut down trees, as opposed to actually do HR. And I expected to like be inundated with people asking me stuff, and it was silence.
Yeah.
And then, like, do I have to do something else? And that early kind of, am I doing the right thing? I know I set it up quite quickly, and then I was like, oh God, do I need to shut it down now because it's not working? And that kind of, I've had a couple of like forks in the road where I've gone, do I just go back into full-time employment and give up on, I mean, I call it a dream. It sounds really naff, doesn't it? But I really enjoy what I do. So
Yeah.
I think part of me is like, why I've stuck with it is because it's like, am I letting go of a dream if I give up on this sort of thing, you know?
Yeah. Just to, I guess, go a few steps ahead, because I'm going to circle back a little minute, but
Yeah, totally.
Are you happy that you didn't give up on the dream?
Yeah, I am, because I think particularly that what I've niched down into, charities are so close to my heart in terms of what I do, how I support them, that I would feel like if I didn't do it, I'd be letting them down. Plus, learning about the different charities that are out there and the
So many of them.
Oh, there's stupid amounts, like hundreds of thousands of them. Some of them, have got employees. Some of them have got volunteers. Some of them are just a big pot of money that other people get grants from. But yeah, I think because I've got such a love for working in this arena, I would feel probably slightly more boring a person if I didn't support them. And it'd be a case of, well, who is out there specifically to support charities? I know there's companies that do the whole, oh, we do this and we support charities as well, or we support this cigarette company, but then we also do charities as well. It feels like, you've got enough specialism pages on your website. It looks like you support SMEs, but if you name them, you're hoping to grab some of that kind of, oh, we specialize in everything. It's not the same. So yeah, I don't want to give up on it. I don't have any plans to give up on it. Yeah.
But that's good. So let's go back. So before we started working together, what were you most frustrated with before we started working together, before you plugged in the 3-phase formula? The 3-phase funnel, sorry.
Yeah. There's a list. So I think it was the whole, how do you win clients? Because my first few people that signed up with me were referrals. They were people that already knew me. They already trusted me on that kind of 1 to 10 trust ratio. They were already up there. I think, actually nailing what do great adverts look like, and that kind of like how being able to cheat the system, because there comes a limit as to how many people I can be referred to. I think that, so there was that. I think that, what does that effective kind of email and newsletter marketing look like? I quite quickly ran out of content of what to write in my newsletters. And it was very much like, it just felt weird because I was like, oh, let me tell you about, this new section of the Employment Rights Act, or what's coming in the Employment Rights Bill, and all the kind of vanilla updates that for HR people, we go, oh, how exciting. But then for actual business owners that are like, am I going to make payroll this month? Can I afford to pay myself a salary this month? What can I do to support this member of staff that doesn't tie me up in knots? Being able to pitch around those genuine questions, like there's a reason why your staff are taking no holiday, or, there's a reason why your person might be closing their shop at 3 p.m. and telling you they're working till the end of the day. I ran out of generic HR content quite quickly. But when you and I spoke about that kind of, doubling down into what you know and pitching to that audience, I've built 6 months worth of content that's allowed me to put out a newsletter every week. And it helps because I get people email me back going, is this about my branch? And it's not, because often they're, bit story there, smush them together to protect that confidentiality. But because it's so relatable, I get emails from people going, who have you spoken to? And it's scary because the benefit of niching down is that your industry, therefore the challenges they're facing.
Yeah. Makes sense. So, I guess next question. If you're honest, what were the things that you were winging?
What was I winging? I was winging client pitches. So the sales calls with them, on reflection, I spent the entire time pretty much convincing them not to go with me. And then I give them a really glossy proposal. And because my pricing strategy was too low, it was basically, no, this looks glossy and suspicious. And yeah, I was struggling to kind of pitch it at the right level. Yeah, what else was I struggling with? I think understanding, I'd heard the word funnel many times, and I was like, what is a funnel? What does a funnel look like? And you could find your body weight in YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Effective funnels and American style marketing. You're like, I don't really want that. What does that mean for my niche? So yeah, I hadn't built the funnel because I didn't understand it. I was doing everything manually, had nothing that really worked for me as a system. And when you're trying to build something and, pay your mortgage off of it, it's really difficult to waste that time trying to work it out for free, because that stuff doesn't, the learning doesn't pay the bills.
Yes. Yeah, it's very true. You've got to get results really quickly.
Yeah.
That's why businesses fail, lack of cash flow.
Yeah. Or, fraud or something,
Yeah, there is that. So why did working with me feel like the right move for you at the time? Was it the structure, the direction, the clarity? Was it?
I mean, the cop-out answer would be yes. No, I think there was a couple of bits. I think the book, first of all, gave me an into that world in terms of there's someone that knows the answers here. You don't need to make these mistakes on your own. And almost that kind of like a low-cost try before you buy sort of thing. And I think that first strategy call that we had kind of gave me an insight into that. This is what it could look like to work with someone that knows, more about this. I felt that from reading your book and having that call, I got on quite well with you, so I wanted to know more. And I think when it came to that point around the ability to work more closely with you, it came down to two things for me. It came down to that kind of time, because of building it part-time whilst also doing something else. Yeah. And that kind of affordability element for me. But I think the time commitment, because I wanted
planning your wedding at the time. I remember telling you, you've got to make a decision on whether to join me.
Like, do you get married or do you work on your business? And it's no. So I did both. But that whole kind of building it over time, building it over the 12 weeks, mapping things out. Don't get me wrong, I would have loved to have gone down the route of doing the kind of like fast track formula kind of route, but the time to do that alongside the wedding, alongside other work, wasn't, and the potential kind of investment of that wasn't right at the time. Who knows for the future? But yeah, I think the Success Squad definitely felt like the right thing at the right time. And, didn't trigger a divorce before the wedding happened either.
Speaking of that, how did you find the workload? Because obviously there is homework to do, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard Lucia's podcast, but she was talking about how her husband kept her on track. Like, have you done your homework? And obviously there is bits to do, because I can't do it for you. But, obviously there is the ChatGPT prompts, the templates, the best practices, the content isn't the most difficult thing to create now, right?
No, it wasn't. And I think there was bits I really enjoyed, like building my customer persona. I really loved that, because I was like, I read it and I shared it with a couple of my clients and they were like, why have you written about me? It's like this weird psychopathic insight to what my customers are like. So there was bits I really enjoyed, but then the other bits about what do you see as your low bar entry offers? And it's
Mm.
kind of like I still did the homework, still committed to it, still took like, an hour or two a week to work through bits. But there was some bits that I enjoyed less. So like my lead magnet page I kept going back to it and kept going, I like it, I don't like it, I'll come back to it. And I think I finished the Success Squad what was it, a couple of weeks ago now. But I launched my lead magnet like last week. So it's I think because I was like doing so much on the website in terms of a full redesign, paying the dumb tax doing it myself as opposed to paying someone to do the website for me, I was very much like, now's not the right time, now's not the right time, now's not the right time. So, but yeah, homework was achievable. What I would say to, if I could go back and speak to myself at the start of the program, just starting is enough rather than trying to get some sort of perfection level website.
Yeah.
And I'd just be kinder on myself, not to aim for that perfection.
Version 1 is better than version none.
Exactly, yeah.
And what do we say about that degree in Cambridge University? Only needs to be 70%, right, to get a first. So don't worry about perfection. So, yeah. So let's talk about when we started working together. What were the biggest shifts in the first few weeks once we started working together?
I would say narrowing down and actually focusing on what I wanted to work on. So aiming at charities, not aiming at, SMEs in disguise. Really narrowing down on what am I doing? Not that everyone can offer a click this button to gain access to my personal number, send me, I will send you the world's most vanilla policies, or would you like a retainer? It's the same that's available from everyone else in the country. I think I really like that kind of, let's make it specific to your industry. Let's make it specific to that. And I think I fell into my element then, because I'm selling to SMEs. I mean, I did this thing when I first set up, and I was like, let me have a look at my town on Google Maps. And I looked up all the businesses in the area, the most random of businesses in terms of there's like a butcher, a baker, there's no candlestick maker, but you get the point. You kind of like, how do I pitch to like this metalsmiths versus this butchers? And just kind of, I ended up kind of just stuck. So the focusing on the charities and being able to specifically say, I know exactly what your issues are. I know that you're going to have people that run charity shops like they think they're social clubs as opposed to actually businesses, or you often can only afford to pay staff minimum wage, so you really need to look at what the other benefits and the other focuses are. And it really gave me that energy, because I know what it's like as a trustee, and being able to then go, how can I help other branches, other charities? It put a new lease of life into it. And I think that was one of those forks in the road, because if I'd have stuck with the SME route, don't think I'd still be doing it today. Because how do you fall in love with generic vanilla business number 4 rather than a charity that's deciding what it's doing around animal welfare, for example. But yeah, I think those are probably the major shifts for me. That and figuring out what a good advert looks like, because
Well, I like that. So we gave you some direction. I think that's the big one as well. I think a lot of HR consultants are missing that. It's like, who are you selling to and what are you selling to them? Because unless you know that, then how can you go to market? How can you go out there and say, hey, give me some money, I'll help you build your business? Like, those are the two biggies. What are you selling? Who are you selling it to? Once you got that, then you can start going to market, and it feels a lot more aligned because you know what you're doing. You've got those foundations in place. So I'm glad you've touched on that. That's good.
Yeah.
So I was, so talk me through the moment when things started to feel more controlled and more predictable.
So I think they felt more controlled and more predictable when I did my first kind of like sales call. And that whole kind of like permission based, are you okay if I do a sales call with you? I'm going to ask you some open and honest questions. You know, if it works, we can proceed. If it doesn't, we can agree to part ways. And my previous calls, I'd kind of talk them through this glossy PowerPoint presentation like I was working for one of the big four consultancy companies, and then I'd present them the cost at the end, and then nothing. You know, it might as well have gone to spam filter or something. But the one I did where I followed the script you had, I charityfied it, if that's even a word, had the call. They did most of the talking, not me, rare.
Good.
And they did most of the talking. They talked through their problems. And obviously I had to sit on my hands in terms of, oh my God, I can help with that. Or I've got a really exciting contract that I can't wait for you to see, which is just obviously not the thing. HR people get really excited about that. You know, you should see our non-compete clause. No, boring. Yeah, being able to have that conversation, really reflect their language back to them. And then I was like, cool, going to send you a little agreement for you to review and sign. If you're cool with it, let's proceed. And in about 6-7 minutes, they'd come back and signed it. I mean, don't get me wrong. My first reaction was, should I have charged more? But that kind of, I've never had that before. I've never had that kind of instant, yes, let's do it, really excited. You absolutely get my vibe. You know, previous ones, I've had clients where, or, you know, prospective clients where I've withdrawn the offer that I've made to them because you throw it out there and they're like, oh yeah, we're just scoping the market, which is code for we're not willing to tell you no. And then suddenly you find out they've gone with someone else, you know, and you often find that out because it's on their website or it's on the client, you know, the company's website. And yeah, it's the first time I've had a client come back to me and go, yes, straight away, as opposed to thanks for your quote, full stop, never to be heard from again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's quite, don't get me wrong, I've had a couple, like, you know, where you're like, oh, I really wanted that customer. But that kind of vibe of, that was really simple, that was really easy, and it got me business. I'm like, oh, let's do that again.
Good. Yeah, so you have a process.
Yes, I do. I have a process, I have a form.
You know what to do to get people to go from prospect to client.
Yep. Yeah,
Put
and I think
words into your mouth.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I still, you know, I sort of understand what a sales funnel is. I sort of understand what it is to kind of build that trust through a newsletter and take someone from a deathly cold permafrost kind of prospect all the way up to like a super warm lead and convert them from that to a actual client. See, I was listening. And so,
excellent.
Yeah, it's one gold star. So it works. I'm still not entirely sure the magic behind why it works, but it does work, and I'm happy with it.
Good. Help you out there, a little bit of coaching. It works because they know that you're for them.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's half the battle. They're not thinking, you know, they're not wondering, who is this? What are they doing? Why should I pay any attention? You've already grabbed them. They know that you're for them. They know that you are selling what they need. And it's just a case of when is the right time for them to buy from you, which is where all the newsletters comes in and the offers and all that good stuff, right?
You're right. And that funny enough, that has worked, because I had someone I spoke to last year who was like, you know, not ready yet. Kind of our current contract, you know, is due to come to an end, and they messaged me off the back of one of my newsletters last week and were like, about that call, you know, can we have it in December? So yeah, that call's happened. They've said yes, they signed up. So yeah, it definitely keeps you on their radar, particularly when you're winding them up about their common business problems.
Yeah. It's incredible what can happen when you bring that, as you like to say, when you bring that trauma to them.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening along, that existence of where they want to get to. And when you start talking about these worlds, that's when they pay attention, because they don't care about employment law, but they do care about the fact that their staff aren't performing very well and how that's affecting things and whatever else. And they want to be in a world where they just turn up and the staff are managing themselves and everyone's pulling in the right direction and blah, blah, blah. Talk to them about this stuff and magic happens. So, if you look at where you were before we started working together and where you are now, what stands out the most?
What stands out? It's a good question.
You can thank ChatGPT for it.
Yes, thank you, generic robot number 4. Sorry, we should call them employees, shouldn't we? No. I think
I'd call him my robot overlord.
Your robot overlord, yes. We thank them now in case when they do take over, they will leave us alive.
I hope so.
Yeah. I think what stands out for me the most is that I actually feel like I know what I'm doing. And that whole kind of, this feels less like a future possible maybe, and really like that point where in the future, it could be something that takes over my entire life, that I then have to start employing people as part of my company, which even when I say that now, I'm like, oh, it feels weird. But that wasn't a possibility before I started working with you. In fairness, that wasn't even a thought before I started working with you. Initially, this was a small side hustle thing that I thought possibly might be cool. And, I was giving away the advice for charities for free. And then suddenly it was like I could turn this into a business. But I now know that I can go much further with it, and it's to suddenly be able to turn something you love into a business. It's a cool thing to do.
Love that. That's good. I think that makes me happy to hear, mate.
Oh, well, thank you for your help.
Oh, my pleasure. So we're just going to wrap things up very soon, but for someone listening along who's where you were, posting, hoping, guessing, what would you say to them?
I suppose you've got a choice. You can either, you can post, you can hope, you can guess, and you might get there. You might happen to stumble across someone that happens to be on that social media platform at the exact same time as when your post is, that they see it and go, oh yes, that fits perfectly with what I want. But if you're posting generic stuff, people will sooner go, oh, that's not for me, rather than, yes, that is for me. I started to learn that the hard way initially. But in terms of what I'd say to them in terms of first steps, get the book. I would recommend printing the book out. I would recommend writing all over the book, in terms of, what your plan is. Going at your pace is one thing, and the book will get you there. But if you're impatient like me, there are other options. And I think, bluntly, without the book, I don't know whether I'd still be looking at charities and B Corps. I'd still not be doing adverts. I'd still be producing very glossy pictures of forests with sunsets and amazingly gorgeous views that apparently are to do with an HR consultancy. But yeah, I think that early blunt feedback around, if you confuse, you lose, no one cares about your logo, gave me that reality check to go, I'm not serving my customers.
Love it. And what would you want people to understand about working closely with me?
That you're going to get honesty from Nick. It feels weird talking about you in the third person. That you're going to get honesty from you. That you don't fluff things up and lose the meaning to it. If it's not working, you will just say, but equally, if it is working or it is liked, you are really honest about that. And I think, yeah, if you're after someone that skirts around the issue, doesn't really say what the problem is, and gives you nothing, then you're not their person. Whereas if you want someone that, you know, genuinely wants to see you set up for 70k a year. I mean, I jokingly have set you the challenge of I want to pay 70k tax in a year, but there we go. You know, if you genuinely want someone that's going to get you there, I've seen as part of the success squad, so I've not been the only person in that group. You know, there's been a bundle of us that have been at various stages of our career, some in that kind of enviable position. If you look at their website and go, they've clearly got it all together, and why are they on this course? And then people that are at the same level as you, you know, as I, that you think they're just making it up all along, just like me. But yeah, if you want someone that's able to help you at any level of that perspective to get to what's next, then yeah, speak to you, Nick, because you know your stuff.
Oh, appreciate hearing that.
You're welcome. Warmed my cold, dead heart.
And is there? I guess let's close things up. So, what's next for you now? Things feel clearer, more predictable. 'Cause I know that obviously we talked offline, and you were applying for that big role because you were running this as a, you know, your business as a side hustle, and you were applying for that big role. Where do you want to go next?
For me, I want to do this full time. For me, this is what I love. I've got about 10,000 years until I'm eligible to retire. So, you know, I've got a while going. And yeah, I want to do something that I enjoy. You know, I think the plan is to scale this to a point where actually I can step away from full-time employment and go, you know, I want to do what I love properly, fully, have enough clients behind me that I haven't got to give up the daily energy drinks or the lemonade budget or whatever it is. But yeah, I think the exciting thing is, might I be an employer at some point? Might I be one of those unscrupulous people that have HR newsletters sent to them? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I think what's next is that kind of scaling it, making it bigger, helping more charities, really kind of, you know, sharing that value through the reviews, the testimonials, and everything around how I've helped people. Yeah, I mean, it's been 6 months. And yeah, who knows what the next 6 months going to look like, the next year. You know, that typical question of like, where are you going to be in 5 years? I'm hoping minted and retired, but you know, we'll see. I'll settle for having a consultancy with some employees and a lot of charities like working with us as well. Nice.
And then is there, I guess, last question, is there anything else you wish you'd known at the start?
No, that's a really tough one to answer. I mean, there's several things jumped into my mind, like, you know, how to price properly. I think was one of the things that would have helped really early on, because I set pricing so low initially that I was like, that's, you know, I'm going to win because I'm cheap. But I didn't realize that some people look at it and go, it shouldn't be that low, therefore something's wrong, and then you lose customers that way. I think I made the change from generic SME to doubling down on charities in about 3 weeks. Yes, I wish I'd done it sooner, but maybe I'm being unkind on myself because that was like less than a month.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's anything I wish I'd have known earlier. I think bluntly, I found you and your services at the right time, because until such time as I was in this arena, I didn't even know any of this stuff existed.
Yeah. That sounds remarkably familiar. I hear that a lot. I think it's one of those things where, you know, self-employed HR consultants, anybody who goes self-employed, they're really great at what they do, But as soon as you go self-employed, you work in marketing and sales. It is.
Yeah, and I don't get me wrong. I can do an all right interview for an employed role. You know, I know how to give an example and add some metrics and write a good CV. But what a CV looks like when you're trying to sell yourself as a person to another business is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah,
and it's like starting it off with "I'm a really good HR person" don't work.
Yeah, they don't care.
No, they don't. They don't. Yeah.
No. Fair enough. Well, thank you for joining us today. I don't have any more questions. Is there, I guess, anything that you want to say as a final tip, final nudge?
I would say, I mentioned it earlier, but the book is a great start. It's definitely a kind of like an inside, like kind of an eye under the kind of like the hood of what's going on, and getting that help. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. I still haven't finished it, but it's I'm about 3/4 of the way through it. It's full of notes, but as I said, I was impatient, and the Success Squad allowed me to kind of skip to the good bit. Would be what I'd add.
Excellent. Yeah, skip to the good bit. So there's no point wasting time. Time is so precious. I mean, we are not getting it back. So fair enough. Well, thank you for joining me. And for those of you listening along at home, hopefully this has been interesting for you and valuable. If Paul's story has resonated with you, if you've heard parts of yourself in his before and after journey, then working with me might be the best thing for you and your business. So if the option is the Fastlane Formula, it's the program where we build the same structure Paul talks about: the messaging, the positioning, the pipeline, the confidence, the clarity, what you're actually selling, who you're actually selling it to, so you get all that, as I say, that clarity. And Fastlane is hands-on, it's personal, it's tailored to you, step by step, week by week. And we begin on the 12th of December, and there are only a few places available. So if you'd like to grab one, you've got two options. You can grab your spot directly from the link in the show notes, or if you want to talk it through with me first, you can book a short call. Completely no pressure either way. All the links are in the show notes. In the meantime, thanks for listening along. Thanks for Paul joining me. And as ever, get marketing, because without marketing, there's no sales. And without sales, there's no business. So get marketing. Hey there, and thanks for listening to the Marketing Made Easy for HR Consultants podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, then please consider taking a minute to help us grow by sharing the episode with a friend or colleague, or by leaving a positive review on podchaser.com. And make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the upcoming episodes if you haven't done so already. I've been your host, Nick Peninsky, and if you've got any questions or you want to know more about today's topic, then feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be delighted to hear from you. See you next time.